Welcome to the Holistic Growth Podcast, navigating business and natural health and functional medicine, where we bring you insights and strategies to help grow your practice and amplify your impact. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Holistic Business Growth Podcast, sponsored and hosted by GetHealthy.store. I'm Dr. Tracy, and with me today is my very special guest, Joseph Cassarino, who is the founder of the bestimmunesupport.com. He is also an advisor to Dr. Albert B. Crum, MD and scientist, product, which is a scientific breakthrough in what we are going to actually be talking about today. We have invited ProImmune here, which I actually have used in the past and still use. I think it's a revolutionary product. Joseph is also a distributor of ProImmune. So, Joseph, we're so excited to have you here. I know that there's a lot of influencers that use this, and I know that during the last 5 years, your product has really been revolutionary. But can you give us a little history on you first and the company, and then let's talk about the supplement itself, ProImmune.
Oh, sure. Thank you for the lovely introduction, by the way. And I'm grateful to be with the Get Healthy store. As far as my background, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've built a lot of companies, and every time I build a company and I retire, I think I'm going to retire, but then somehow I get excited about something and get pulled into something and build something else and retire again. And I was retired at 65 years old about 3 years ago. I'm 68 now. And I knew Dr. Crum because we both bought properties next to each other in a commercial district. And I knew Dr. Crum, and I knew he did something with a dietary supplement years back, but I never knew what it was. I didn't understand it fully. And I met him like 5, 6 years ago again, and I said hello to him and asked him how he was doing and all. And I said, Dr. Crum, don't you own a dietary supplement company? How's that going? He says, oh, yes, I do. And we started a conversation. Well, that conversation lasted an hour. And when we were finished with the conversation, Dr. Crum said to me, he said, Mr. Cassarino, you're brilliant. You're a genius. He says, I think you could help me expose this scientific discovery around the country because I'm an MD and a scientist who made this scientific breakthrough. And I only have my colleagues from Harvard Medical University treating their patients with it, but I don't know how to get it out to the public. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, Dr. Crum, I'm retired. I'm not really interested in coming back to work. I said, and furthermore, I'm not the guy, Dr. Crum. I'm a college dropout. I don't have any education. Your friends are Harvard, Yale, Brown, NYU. I don't have that level of education. I said, I don't think I could, you must know better people than me. He said, Mr. Cassarino, send me your resume. I send him my resume and calls me up 2 weeks later. I am begging you, please come out of retirement. He says, I'd like you can do it. He says, you build companies, you know how to expose the product. Mm-hmm. I said, let me think on it. And for a year, I didn't want to do it, because it's a lot of work. Now I'm doing this for 2.5 years and I'm working. If I told you 12 to 13 hours every single day, if it's not Zoom meetings, it's emails, it's trainings, it's traveling across the country. And I actually lose money doing this. I live off my investments. I don't do this for the money. I do this because I researched for the year what ProImmune is about. And in that conversation, when I met Dr. Crum years ago, when he said I was genius, I left off a piece that in my retirement, I helped a friend of mine who owns a life science company. He also developed a product. He's a scientist. And in retirement, I helped him for a year kind of build his brand working in his office. So when I was speaking to Dr. Crum, I said, well, what is it that you have, Dr. Crum? Is it a blend of amino acids? Explain to me what your formula does. And he was intrigued. How do you know all this? And I said, well, I have a very diverse background. Even though I'm a college dropout, I've built companies. I helped a friend in the life science businesses. So I have a small understanding of what the amino acids do and how it works and how to build companies and all that. So that's how he kind of connected the dots that I could be the guy. So like I say, so a year went by and I started researching what ProImmune does, Tracy. And it touched my heart because I happen to be I happen to be a divine person connected to God and higher consciousness. I work on this very deeply, trying to give back to humanity, give back to society. I live a life in belief that we are all one. And if you were sick, Tracy, and you needed something, Tracy, I'll give you a jar. You don't have to buy it. If you told me I have the flu or I have COVID and I'm having trouble breathing, I would say to you, give me your address. I'll send you a jar right away. This is the type of person that I am, you know? So when I read the research and I said to myself, oh my God, this is a scientific breakthrough of epic proportion based on what it does. What this product does, Tracy, is it's all natural, number one. And these three amino acids, what Dr. Crum did, he discovered, he unraveled the enigma to glutathione synthesis. Why this is a scientific significance and a breakthrough of epic proportion. What this actually means is most people will think, well, what's so great about this? We have glutathione, we have NAC, we have liposomal. We already have all this. This is nothing new. That's where they're mistaken. This is new because what Dr. Crum did over many years of research as a scientist, as a psychiatrist, as a medical doctor, all this intelligence that he had as a researcher, um, he figured out over many, many years of research the precise, minute ratio of the amino acid ingredients in the precise ratio, in the minuscule portions of how your cell, Tracy, your cell right now is making its own glutathione, but there's a formula to it within the cell. He unraveled that enigma and discovered that it has to be the precise ratio of glycine, cysteine, glutamine, and a cofactor of selenium in a minute particle size to replicate exactly how the cell is doing it. And through trial and error, he figured it out. And all the testing was proving that only these all natural ingredients in the precise ratio will induce the cell to create its own intracellular glutathione. So, in other words, when you take the scoop of this powder, the ProImmune,
Mhm.
every cell in the body is now replenishing its own glutathione, but only as much that is needed to take out the toxic overload and reduce the oxidative stress inside the cell. Now, why is that important? Someone might say, well, but again, we have NAC that does this, we have glutathione that does this, we have liposomal that does this, and all of the universities that research this, this was brought to the attention of the NIH in the time of research because people were researching it, figuring out like, wow, this is doing a lot more than any of these other products, and they started talking about it. So the NIH gave Dr. Crum $88 million worth of research, and then all these universities started researching ProImmune, and what all of them came back with their discoveries was this ProImmune, the ingredients, is a unique formula that does what nothing else is doing. Now, I'll break that down for you if you would like. I could tell you why if you'd like to hear it.
Well, yeah, absolutely. What I'd like to do is just take a second and just walk through what you said, because I think this is really important information to understand. So this is a powdered supplement, comes in a jar, very easily, high compliance with it. It actually tastes good. Can be
Could you
mixed
could you see it?
with things. Yes. I've used it and I've used it for my clients. It's a combination of three amino acids, glycine, glutamine, and cysteine, along with the cofactor, and it's a selenomethionine. So it's actually a more bioavailable form of selenium as that cofactor. So it's a very unique combination, small label. You know, you look at it and you're like, is that it? But it really packs a big punch. And I
Yeah.
love that there's so much research behind it because, you know, as a practitioner, you go out and you try to get somebody to take something and they want to know the research, or you have a colleague that you're trying to talk to about it and they're like, was there any research? And this one I can say yes, because there's not a lot of research in our industry, you know, for natural health products. And so it's unfortunate, but not a lot of agencies will invest like they did into Dr. Crum. And probably because of his background and his relationships, he actually had that opportunity. So very, very impressive. And yes, I would love to know about the ingredient panel and what your findings are, if you'll share that with our audience.
I'd love to. I'd like to say something.
Mhm.
You left out one minute ingredient in this.
Okay.
It's called dicalcium phosphate. You know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to tell you why that's so important. As a distributor, and I work with physicians and pharmacies across the country now that are loving this and recommending it and selling it. But every now and again, I get a customer that might say something like, "Oh, I noticed there's that calcium phosphate in this, and that has an adverse effect." Here's the kicker, though: what they don't know is the amount of dicalcium phosphate in this container is less than 0.1% of 1%. It's so minuscule. Dr. Crum said it doesn't even need, I didn't even need to put it on the label. He said, but I like to be honest and full disclosure. So I said, it's in there. Let me put it in. So that's why it's on the label. But if anyone was to look at the label and say, oh, I'm not going to take this, there's something harmful in this, it would never affect them in any adverse way. And that's important to know. So I just wanted to mention it.
And I think there is something to say in product formulation, and I did product formulation for years. There are just certain types of supplements that are better in powders because of the amount that you should take, can't always fit nicely in one or two capsules. And to keep those powders from, coagulating together, sticking
Right.
together, actually
Yes.
oxidizing within the product bottle, there are certain things that you put in as stabilizers that even in the most minute amounts, as you said, do not have to be on the label. So that's really important for people to hear because Dr. Crum was transparent about it. And I think that's a very honorable thing where other companies are not. And there's lots of things that are in your supplements that are not on the label and they don't have to put it in there. So that's just a little note for society.
Well, I would like, in full disclosure, people to know that Dr. Crum, excuse me, Dr. Crum, he's another man of God. This is a man of divinity who his whole impetus of this was divine. I don't think we have enough time for me to tell you the divine story of how this was inspired, but this is a man like myself that loves people and wants to make a difference for humanity, and he does, and he has. Maybe I could explain later at the end of the show if we have time how, but Dr. Crum's discovery is literally improving, and I will use the word healing because you're a doctor. So I could say it to you because you understand this is truth. As FDA dietary supplement, I'm not allowed to say this is going to treat, cure, prevent, or heal anything. But all the doctors I work with, they are saying, but it does. We could say it because we're doctors, but Dr. Crum he has been healing, not me. I'm only the distributor, right? I'm not an MD, so I'm not qualified to say I could heal you. But he's been healing tens, if not hundreds of thousands. And if I told you who, you wouldn't even believe it. I'm talking dignitaries, I'm talking world leaders, I'm talking people that you could not even believe who are taking this, that I don't want to give the names out, uh, for personal reasons. Maybe they don't want people knowing their business.
Yes,
But some very powerful and important people take ProImmune. But
it's
getting
good.
back to the science, Tracy, I'll explain it the best I can. Let's say in layman's terms, okay? Okay, so let's get into glutathione first. Do you know the great Dr. Judy Mikovits?
Yes, she and I are really great friends. We did lots of classes together.
Oh, wonderful. I'm going to explain it the way Dr. Judy does. Dr. Judy sells this as a must have for everyone. Everybody must have this product. I'm actually on a podcast with her tomorrow, and Dr. Fogarty and myself were on a podcast
Good.
helping people in California mitigate the toxic overload with this. I'll tell you that in a minute, how we can do this in the lungs. I'll tell you that later. But Dr. Judy Mikovits says this is a must have for a reason. She teaches people at lectures and conferences and on podcasts that no one can take glutathione. You don't take glutathione, Dr. Judy says on radio shows with me. You have to make it. Why does she say that? I'm going to explain why. What the most medical doctors and pharmacists don't realize is that, and this is what Dr. Crum proved and all the research proves, by the way, no gluten, and Dr. Judy knows this very well. No glutathione, as a molecular biologist and a chemist, she's qualified to understand this and she knows it. No glutathione molecule could ever penetrate the cell membrane at all. It's a physical impossibility of a glutathione molecule, not an IV drip, not a glutathione product, not a glutathione product on the shelf. None of them could penetrate the cell membrane because the force of the cell behind it is too strong to allow the glutathione molecule, the synthetic glutathione molecule to pass through the cell membrane. The force is too strong to allow that synthetic molecule to pass through. The reason ProImmune is different is because it's not glutathione. It's not the glutathione molecule. This is not glutathione. This is the all-natural precursors, like I explained earlier. He figured out in the precise ratio how the all-natural precursors can penetrate the cell membrane naturally and effectively. Listen to this, Tracy, exactly as nature intended 3.6 billion years ago, when the single cell created glutathione inside of it to take out the toxic overload from the universe inside the single cell. Had that never happened, you and I would not be here today. We would never have evolved to humans had the single cell never taken out the glutathione.
This episode is brought to you by Myos MD. What if there was a natural way to reduce the muscle loss we all experience with age? Let me introduce you to Myos MD. Myos MD is a powerfully unique supplement designed to reduce muscle loss, whether it's through aging, injury, illness, or weight loss. The secret? Fortitropin, an all-natural bioactive compound developed by top scientists and researched at some of the world's finest institutions. Here's how it works. Fortitropin has been clinically shown to lower myostatin, increase muscle protein synthesis, and reduce anabolic resistance. In fact, in a double-blind, placebo-controlled study at the University of California, Berkeley, men and women aged 60 to 75 saw an impressive 18% increase in muscle protein synthesis with Fortitropin compared to a placebo. And subjects saw these results with no additional exercise. This isn't just a supplement, it's science in action, helping your patients build muscle, recover faster, and live powerfully. To learn more about the research and benefits of Myos MD, visit myosmd.com today.
But that's the reason why the glutathione molecule cannot penetrate the cell membrane. But physicians and pharmacists, they don't comprehend it fully, because if they went to the pharmacy right now and bought any glutathione product and they took it, they would say, well, I just took glutathione. Joseph is wrong. I just took my blood test and my glutathione levels went up 20, 30%. I could see it right in the blood test. Here's the error. The doctors are reading the blood test. They've never studied inside the cell to see what the cell is doing at that point. That's what the $88 million at 18 universities test after test after test. They studied inside the cell, and they all came back with this research. Oh my goodness, this formula is activating the NRF2 gene. The list goes on and on and on. That's regular glutathione. Now, as you know, we have something called liposomal glutathione, where they wrap the molecule in a fat soluble, correct? Okay, so now another doctor might say to me, or a pharmacist, well, no, Joseph's wrong again, because we know liposomal gets through the cell. They're not wrong, but listen to this. Liposomal does enter the cell membrane unnaturally by forcing its way into the cell. Dr. Crum is one of the most brilliant scientists on the planet, according to all the doctors that work with him, including Dr. Judy Mikovits would confirm that. And the liposomal glutathione is forcing its way into the cell unnaturally. Again, it's synthetic, and it gets worse. Once the liposomal glutathione penetrates the cell membrane, it's bypassing the substrate-specific enzymes within the cell, putting the cell into disuse, and actually adding more toxicity inside the cell. Now, some doctors will say, but I prescribed liposomal and I'm seeing results with it. They're seeing temporary results. And what they're seeing is, according to Dr. Crum, they're seeing the results similar, Tracy, to if you were to give a patient a steroid. You give the patient the steroid, his muscles are going to look like they're performing better and they're bigger. But Dr. Crum always says, at what cost? It's detrimental to the body. And it's the same way with liposomal, because liposomal is it's almost tricking the cell into a way that the person is diminishing their own immune system by taking liposomal glutathione.
Yeah. And, probably an easy way for people to understand, or the practitioners listening, the weakest cells are going to die first from that. So you would see improvement, because if you have sick zombie-like cells, you're taking a liposomal glutathione, it's forcing its way in, they die off first, they might feel better temporarily. But what I'm understanding and hearing from you is that it will also penetrate healthy cells and may have a detrimental effect to those. So it's really the long-term use of it and the forceful penetration into cells, creating a toxic environment inside of even healthy cells. So I can kind of see, it's almost like I don't want to say I have nothing against companies that have liposomal glutathione. We have several of them on our catalog, and, to the doctors that use them, I honor that. But I'm kind of hearing it as if we use chemotherapy, right, to go after cancer, but then it kills the healthy cells too. So almost kind of like that, where you have a detrimental effect. I want to go back to your NRF2 comment, because I just want to make sure people are following what you're saying, because NRF2 is a whole lecture in itself. And I just want to make sure people know what it is. Just for the practitioners that listening, if you're not familiar with the NRF2 gene, it's known as the nuclear factor. Is it erythroid 2 related something something? So dumbed down to NRF2. But what it does is it actually encodes a protein that acts as a master regulator in our body's ability to defend itself against oxidative stress and toxic insults. So it's essentially controlling the expression of the genes responsible for antioxidant production. So when you said this formula actually helps, facilitate the gene NRF2, it's basically taking something that may even be shut off, may be giving out the wrong message, or may just not be as effective as it used to be in our younger years, or perhaps we voluntarily took a toxin in some way. That this function of this NRF2 master regulator is downregulated. And by taking ProImmune, it looks like what they found is it actually activated this gene that helps the body create antioxidants and detoxification pathways. So
That's exactly
very interesting.
Yes, that's exactly what they found. In the booklet that we will be giving to the physicians, in the 16-page booklet, this is the booklet that we are giving to all the physicians via the GetHealthy.store website or store. But your physicians will get this. But I included the information about the NRF2 gene, and that's exactly what it's doing. And as you know, the NRF2 gene, talk about immune health, is supporting about 200 immune support systems within the cell. So, between the ProImmune taking out the toxicity inside the cell, that's what ProImmune does also. It's taking out toxic overload inside the cell. It gets deeper, Tracy. There's a lot you don't know, because we can't give you all the information. It's too much to give, but I'll just share with you briefly. ProImmune was also researched and has patents as a heavy metal chelation. So now we know that it's taking out heavy metals, which everybody has today. The list goes on and on about what ProImmune does. It's chelating the heavy metals. It's activating the NRF2. It's reducing the oxidative stress. The list goes on and on about the benefits of it. But I want to get back to the liposomal. So we do know that, believe it or not, the ProImmune would be a superior protocol, because it's doing things. Here's how Dr. Crum always explains it: according to exactly how nature designed it to be. So now we spoke about glutathione, we spoke about liposomal. Let's talk about N-acetylcysteine, NAC, the go-to glutathione precursor. Tracy, I will share this with you. I don't criticize any doctor that is recommending NAC, glutathione, liposomal. I don't criticize any one of them, because they were not taught what we are discussing right now. They don't know about this scientific breakthrough. As soon as the doctors discover this and find out this research, they're ecstatic about it. And these are the docs now that are converting to ProImmune and raving about it. But now I want to speak about the N-acetylcysteine and why ProImmune was researched to perform better. And do you know what else this does, Tracy, that other formulas like glutathione and liposomal and NAC do not do? This also improves CKD, chronic kidney disease. That's another big research
Really?
because of all, you better believe it. It's in the booklet. It's on my website. And the reason that happened is the research proved that, remember, the all natural ingredients of this formula of ProImmune, once they penetrate the cell membrane effectively and efficiently, and the research proved ProImmune does it better than NAC, better than glutathione, because it's doing it all naturally, exactly how nature designed it to do. So what the ProImmune is doing, Tracy, it's reducing the oxidative stress within the cell. And what I've discovered working with all the top doctors that I work with, and I'm working with some top docs, the biologists, the chemists, the most brilliant like yourself, people that understand deep, okay? They've discovered that, well, you know this already, but what they know, and it's not spoken about frequently, is that the root cause to just about every chronic illness, Tracy, results from three things: depleted glutathione, oxidative stress, and then inflammation. And when you address what we call the root causes, what the docs I'm working with are discovering that most of these chronic illnesses are mitigating. I have doctors, don't laugh at me, they've been taking, these are doctors, MDs, the most brilliant, that have been taking patients off meds and putting them on ProImmune because they're finding this is doing more to mitigate the chronic illness and to improve the condition than the medicines were doing. So, I say to Dr. Crum on phone conversations, I speak with him daily. And I said, Dr. Crum, I'm not educated like you. I'm a layperson in the sciences. So let me ask you, as a layperson, to me, as just a normal Joe, this is all very simple. In other words, the whole medical thing is very simple. What I'm reading everywhere, and every research report proves it, that you could Google any illness, any disease with the word glutathione and Alzheimer's, glutathione and Parkinson's, glutathione and this, that, and the other thing. It always goes back to oxidative stress, depleted glutathione, and inflammation. So I said, Dr. Crum, this is all so simple to me. How come doctors aren't addressing the root cause? Why don't they just reduce the oxidative stress with ProImmune? And he laughs. He's 93 years old. He goes, that's the $1 million question, Mr. Cassarino. He goes, I laugh at it too because they don't know about ProImmune. They haven't heard about the research. It's hard for them to believe that yes, it is that simple. Put the people on ProImmune, reduce the oxidative stress, lower the inflammatory load. And what we're finding, Tracy, every pharmacy across America that's selling ProImmune, you could call up Ersfeld Pharmacy, a small pharmacy in North Dickinson, Dakota. Okay, they sell 100 jars of ProImmune a month because the pharmacist is telling every patient you should be on this. Ersfeld's Pharmacy in Ersfeld is in. Give me a minute. Ersfeld is in North Dickinson. He sells 100. Dakota Pharmacy in Bismarck, he sells 100 a month. The list goes on and on. These small town pharmacies. Now, about a month ago, I introduced it into the oldest and largest pharmacy in New York City. They're very beloved. They're called Wilner Chemist, WILLNER, wilnerchemist.com. I introduced ProImmune to them a month ago. Already they've sold about 100 jars. I went there a couple times, trained their staff, trained the owners and the managers. First, when they heard about ProImmune, they said, the owner and the Dr. Chen, who's the manager, no, we don't need ProImmune. We have glutathione and we have NAC. I said, if you would be so kind and give me 10 minutes to explain why this is different, so it could become one of the best sellers in your pharmacy. You know what? We love giving people time. Explain it to us. I explained the science to them. They said, bring it in. I have display cases on every front counter now at Wilner Chemist. They're promoting front and center. Every floor manager's recommending to every patient within a month. Once they learned the science and studied and understood and allowed me to train them, they are recommending it to all their patients. It's now a top seller at Wilner. The owner put the banner ad for this little photo here that you see here. That's a banner ad. He put this on the homepage of his website. He says, Mr. Cassarino, I normally charge $1,000 every 3 months for this, for all my top suppliers. I'm putting this on the front page and I'm saying, click here, learn all the science. I want every customer to know about ProImmune, and I'm not charging you. He says, because what you're doing for society, you're going around educating everybody, and this product works. We love it here. I take it myself. This is the owner of Wilner Chemist. And like I say, this is a big deal because they're very beloved and respected. And one thing about them, they've had things in that pharmacy that I've never seen. They have tinctures and teas and manuka honeys. They have tinctures from 100 years ago before drugs were even invented. Do you know what I mean? Like they have tinctures like that you can get at Wilner Chemist that nobody carries. So I'm very excited to be part of that. And they are helping me educate New York City.
Very nice.
And
I'm
that's important
glad you
because
did.
New York City doesn't know about ProImmune. Most people don't know about it. So I came out of retirement and I travel the country. You don't know this, but I go months at a time at my expense. I pay for all this. And I'm invited next month, although I'm delaying it. I'm telling them, no way I'm coming. They want me to go a pharmacy, a chain of pharmacies in Kansas, 19 pharmacies, heard about ProImmune by an attorney who has a radio show that I do programs on every week. And the attorney said, you have to get this product into your pharmacies. He knows about it. He takes the ProImmune and he knows the doctors who recommend it. And he understands the science. So the pharmacy said, well, we want Joe to come and train the 19 pharmacies. We want to put it on the front counter. We want to recommend everybody on this product. Get him here immediately. I'm like, I can't go to Kansas in January and February. How am I going to move around?
Yeah.
So I said, let me do a couple Zooms and
Right.
I'll get there in this. I'll get to the spring because I have 6 pharmacies in Florida that want me next week. I
That
have to go
sounds
to,
better.
and
Yeah.
that's going to be like 2 weeks, 3 weeks in Florida training them. Let me go to Florida first.
Sounds terrible, Joe. I feel for you.
Yeah, well, you would feel for me if you were in Kansas and it's 3 degrees and
Oh,
you have
I
to go to
agree.
19 and you have to go to,
Definitely go to Florida. Definitely go to Florida.
um,
So let me ask you a few questions because the practitioners always come back and they want to know how much, how often. So is this something that people should take on a daily basis?
oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. Okay, so how much? Um, 2 scoops a day is what I recommend. I'll tell you why, Tracy. I'm 68 years old, and as you know better than most, because you're a very educated physician, so you understand all this. We deplete glutathione as we age. But here's the problem, Tracy, why this has become a top seller across the country, actually. People are buying this in droves now because what's happening, everybody is depleted in glutathione at 10, 12, 14, 18. They are depleted in glutathione today as teenagers because the foods we are eating are all so toxic. The reason Dr. Judy says this is a must have for everybody, children included, everything we're eating is sprayed with glyphosate, and this mitigates all the toxicity of the glyphosate, the heavy metals, the microplastics. Listen to that,
Yeah.
microplastics, all of it is depleted with ProImmune. So the reason I take 2 scoops a day, this also passed phase 1 and phase 2 trial in Rwanda as a COVID um, treats and cures COVID. Let me put it to you that way. That I could say because that's factual. This passed phase 1 and 2 trial in Rwanda by Dr. Julia Hilliard of Georgia State Virology Lab, who proved this is also an antiviral that stopped Zika, dengue, and HIV. That's the protocol that Dr. Fogarty took to the Federal CARES Act in 2020 and said we could stop COVID with this. If it's going to stop Zika, dengue, and HIV, this would stop COVID as well. And he said, here's the antiviral research by Georgia State Virology Lab that proves it, by Dr. Julia Hilliard. Here's Dr. Crum's patent that proves this is an antiviral that mitigates pathogens, viruses, and anything unnatural to the cell. And they said, we agree. We can't tell anyone, but we'll give you money for funding for a grant to get on radio shows. And that's how Dr. Fogarty and I got on radio shows educating America that this stops COVID if you take 2 scoops a day. So I take 1 in the morning, 1 at night. Okay. So I'm not, again, because it's a dietary supplement, I'm not allowed to sell it. And I can't go around and put ads out and tell everybody this is going to stop, treat, or cure COVID because that's against FDA policy. But what I can say, which is factual according to my FDA attorney, that this was researched as an antiviral and was brought into the Federal CARES Act in 2020 as the only all-natural COVID countermeasure by Dr. Edward Ted Fogarty, MD, who's a brilliant physician, has saved tens and tens of thousands of lives. He's the one who taught Dr. Judy how this works, actually. She knows him very well. And so it's a federal countermeasure because they understood the science. So I
That's
take two.
remarkable, I have to say.
Thank
Amazing.
you. Thank you. I take 2 scoops, Tracy, because in full disclosure, I'm not vaccinated because I was raised by my sister was a psychotherapist and an all naturalist, and I was raised with a family that loves everything natural, that anything that you can do naturally to optimize health in my family's opinion, was always a better choice because in our opinion, we always felt that nature knows best. And when humans start tinkering around, sometimes we kind of complicate things. And it could be very simple. If nature knows best, then glutathione was created within the cell to take out the toxic overload, and that still works today. So I want to share something if we have some more time. Do we have a bit of time?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to share something. I work with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Children's Health Defense, Mary Holland, and I know full well about the chronic illnesses that are epidemic for children. I even put it on my website, thebestimmunesupport.com. Your audience could get onto my website. They could see all this research. They could read it in the science section. They could see Children's Health Defense website on my website by clicking on a link. And the reason I actually came out of retirement to do this work, Tracy, a couple years back, it's because I have 3 children. I have a beautiful 31-year-old daughter who's a Harvard Medical School graduate and now at Tufts University, becoming an MD. I have another beautiful daughter in Boston who dropped out of life sciences and opened up a hair salon because she's an artist and she just wanted to talk with people all day. So she owns a hair salon. I have a wonderful 26-year-old son who's finishing up undergrad, who will go to law school. I have 3 beautiful children and they're healthy right now. And I said to myself, based on what I know about the epidemic chronic illnesses that children are facing, if I don't come out of retirement and make a change like the great people like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. are doing, and in my opinion, he's no quack that some people are making him out to be. This man is one of the most brilliant men I've ever met in my lifetime. This man is genius, kind of like Dr. Judy is genius, and you're very brilliant yourself. I could hear just by listening to. And the people that understand Tracy and the people that dig deep, they understand that there's a lot of things that are harmful. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is not about stopping vaccines. He's about limiting rushing them out and about limiting filling them with heavy metals and anything that could be harmful to the children and to the people. Because in reality, it's true. Us humans are pretty much harming other people by adding any toxicity to anything that doesn't belong there. So Children's Health Defense, when you look at these children with diabetes at 12 years old, you look at 1 in 34 children, I think it is, has ADHD. 1 in 50 have autism. My numbers might be off, but they're pretty close. It's to the level of the children are in epidemic health crises. And we know that this is one of the things that could help them by replenishing the glutathione. Why, Tracy? Because all these children have toxic overload from the foods they're eating. I don't blame any parent. I'm a parent. We did the same thing when the kids were young because we were too busy working. My wife and I both working. And sometimes we had to give them some chicken McNuggets to keep them, here, have some chicken McNuggets, just to shut them up. So excuse me, but sometimes we would give them the fast food because we were, it's easy. You know what I mean? And then it becomes a culture. And then, you learn to teach them, okay, listen, that was temporary. We have to eat healthy. We have to live healthy. And we turned that all around. We did it periodically, gave them junk food. But what's happening today is we have mom and dads working all the time and they can't stop they don't have the time to always give home cooked meals and give them the healthiest meals and give your kids everything organic and home cooked and fresh and clean. That's a full-time job in itself. So it's easy to go to the fast foods, and it's the fast foods and the toxicity in the air, the water, and the tap water and everything else. It's all toxic, Tracy. And I'll use the word killing these children. And if we don't address this now, if you don't make a change, if I don't make a change, if Dr. Judy doesn't make a change, if Dr. Ted Fogarty doesn't make a change, if RFK Jr. doesn't make a change,
Right.
That's why I came out of retirement. I'm trying to give back to society in my own way. I'm shouting ProImmune from the rooftops, not because I earn a couple dollars a jar and I want that money. I spend more of the money I earn. I spend more than I earn in the profit selling each jar. I give it away. I give it to veterans groups because you know what you don't know about this? This is helping traumatic brain injury like they've never seen. This is
Mm.
helping post-traumatic stress disorder. Why? Because when Dr. Crum discovered this, he actually, his impetus for this, one of the impetuses was as a psychiatrist, he said, when I'm gone, I've got to develop something. I have to come up with something that when I'm done on earth, I have to come up with something that could help PTSD and all these psychiatric conditions. This mitigates depression, anxiety, according to the top doctors like Dr. Edward Ted Fogarty and Dr. Hartsuch. This
Mhm.
also mitigates, believe it or not, suicidal ideation because of the glycine, because of the NRF2 activation. There's a lot of components going on when you activate the NRF2, when you take out the oxidative stress, when you lower the anxiety, when you lower the trauma, all of these things that are happening within the cell by lowering the anxiety and the depression and all of it. So I'm not this scientist that could give the best explanation of that, but that's what it's doing. So there's so many health benefits to ProImmune. But like I say, this is why I came out of retirement, Tracy. This is why I shout up on the rooftops, because I have an understanding as a layperson. Please forgive me, I'm nowhere as educated as you are, but in my own layperson's small understanding of the sciences, what I've learned over the few years working with the best doctors on the planet is pretty much two all natural things can mitigate most of these chronic illnesses. And what they are is ProImmune, number one. Number two, hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And
Mhm.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will be, he, first day when President Trump was elected, first words out of RFK Jr.'s mouth was, he had a statement. I don't remember it verbatim, but it was something like, it's time to stop the suppression of hyperbaric
Yeah.
oxygen
Yeah.
therapy,
Mhm.
nutraceuticals,
Yeah.
anything all natural. It's been suppressed. Come on, let's talk real. Let's be honest and say that there are many great all natural things that work. And another thing that works to optimize health that I take every day, in addition to my ProImmune, and you probably sell a lot of it at Get Healthy, is spirulina. I
Mhm.
take spirulina every day. I mix it with water, drink it up. When I wake up in the morning, I have a nice glass of water to hydrate, but I mix a teaspoonful of spirulina. Why?
Mhm.
Because most people know, and Dr. Fauci knew this. He had all the research on it. He never said anything. Spirulina, according to the researchers, is another all natural antiviral. This was proven to be an all natural antiviral. So I take spirulina. I have an antiviral to help me shield myself from COVID all naturally. I take 2 scoops of ProImmune. You ask me the dose. What do I take? Two, one in the morning, one before bed. One in the morning, one before bed. I'm keeping my cells replenished in glutathione. Then I have the spirulina. So now with spirulina and ProImmune, I have two antivirals. I have two all natural formulas. Listen to this carefully. That are replenishing stem cell regenesis. Both of them do that, according to the doctors I work with. And then I have two great all natural products that are supporting mitochondrial support and function. So now, spirulina and ProImmune, you don't think I want to get on every radio show and every podcast and tell the world that this is the
Mhm.
protocol, what people should be taking, in addition to whatever else they're doing? I'm not
Right.
telling any physician stop giving meds. But what I would like to tell them is they should be recommending ProImmune with the meds.
Mhm.
Recommend ProImmune as a supplement because this is one of the healthiest formulas that it will help to detoxify any toxins that might be inside the medicines that are mostly synthetic, and a lot of them have these toxins in them. This will take out that toxic
Right.
overload. And what many doctors will discover is that as their patients are on ProImmune, their health is going to be improving more so. And listen to this, Tracy. I don't think I ever told you. This was researched in 37 countries to be an all natural statin. It took 37 countries 8 years for all those scientists throughout 37 countries to approve and agree that this works as an all-natural statin to lower cholesterol, triglycerides, and A1C. And I studied that all-natural statin patent. I read it, the whole 40 pages. And we have doctors that are putting people on ProImmune, and they're witnessing that their cholesterol and their triglycerides come down significantly. And some patients were able to get off the toxic statin drugs, because the ProImmune was doing more to mitigate and to lower the cholesterol levels. And many doctors have taken patients off the statins. We have a couple of, I won't call it a case study, but in a way, it is a case study. One gentleman, Leo Bento, 82 years old, was ready for dialysis. His son put him on ProImmune. 3 months later, Leo goes to his doctor. Doctor says, I don't know what you're doing, but you don't need dialysis any longer. Leo says, well, I don't know. My son gave me this. Leo didn't know what this is. He's 82 years old. The doctor said, that's amazing. He started recommending it to his patients. Now, that same man is 84 years old. Leo went back to his doctor this year, about 2 months ago. Doctor said, I just witnessed something. It's like a miracle. He says, one of your kidneys was dead. He goes, I'm reading life in the x-ray. I'm seeing nutrients and life is coming back to that kidney. He says, it has to be the ProImmune, because I know personally you're not doing anything different. I know my patients, I know you, I know what you're on. And it's the ProImmune is the only thing you've done different since that last research. We have another doctor that in Spring Hill, Florida, who owns Crescent Community Clinic. Dr. Abujarad had a 42-year-old male patient. Dr. Abujarad recommends this to patients. He takes it himself. He has his 82-year-old mother on it, but he had a patient who had a stroke, 42 years old. Patient could not walk or talk, Tracy. Dr. Abujarad has him on meds for 3-4 months. Patient's not improving. Dr. Abujarad knew that I told him about how we're helping veterans with traumatic brain injury, and how Dr. Fogarty treated an Alzheimer's patient with this and HBOT, and how he reversed dementia with this. And we know that it works on the neurological components for TBI, et cetera. So Dr. Abujarad said, I'm going to take my patient off meds and I'm going to try ProImmune because nothing's working. Put him on high-dose ProImmune, several doses a day. Dr. Abujarad called me up 4 months later and to tell me that his patient is walking and talking, and he believes it's because of the ProImmune. I sent him another case of ProImmune because I have a relationship with Dr. Abujarad. I said, Dr. Abujarad, I'm going to gift you a case of ProImmune, a 12-jar case. Do a study on it. He goes, I will. He goes, because that's his second stroke victim I put on ProImmune and I had improvements with. So he's working on that. I don't know how long it will take, but we're seeing results like never seen before with this formula. So,
well, it certainly is timely with the amount of toxicity. I think with the new administration coming in, I too love, RFK. I think he's brilliant. And, his standpoint has always been informed consent and safer. And that's where he's always stood, and I understand that. I think everyone should have a choice, whatever choice you want to make. It should be a choice. That's the entire premise of our country. It's what it was built on. And as long as your choice is educated and fair, that you receive all the information on each side. So that's really what I think everybody wants. And, I think we're going to see that coming in the next 4 years. But I feel like we could talk all day. Unfortunately, we have to wrap it up. So do you want to leave us with any parting words? Additionally, I'll do the call to action for our practitioners listening here. Make sure you add this to your store, guys. It's in the Get Healthy catalog. This is a must-have for all of your clients who have had COVID, maybe had chosen to receive the jab, any chronic issue with underlying inflammation as the root, your patients that are on statins, people with kidney issues. I mean, we've heard so many positions for this product today that most of us deal with as clinicians. And then is there a way, Joseph, that they can get wholesale accounts with you as well so that they can order some for their facilities?
All they have to do is email me at info@thebestimmunesupport.com. Tell me their interest. Then I contact them as soon as I can. Tracy, do I have 2 minutes to explain something critically important?
Yes, go ahead.
Last night, Dr. Fogarty contacted RFK Jr. personally. I had asked him to. I want to show you something. Look at my jaw. This is important for California. Look at this jaw. You see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, watch this now. Look at the dust coming up. See it?
Yeah.
Okay, watch this.
Oh, you're just inhaling it.
Okay, the protocol, very important for California. We're talking to RFK about it last night. We're talking to Dr. Judy tomorrow on another podcast, getting it out to California. By inhaling ProImmune this way, 3 times in the morning, 3 times in the afternoon, at 3 times at night, Dr. Fogarty has done it for patients and has witnessed results of mitigating COPD and asthma. Why? Because the nanoparticles of the glutathione precursors are entering the bronchi of the lungs directly to mitigate the oxidative stress, the toxicity, and lower the inflammatory load. And we have witnessed patients improve lung function and mitigate COPD and asthma. So we're all over the radios and podcasts this weekend trying to get people in California. This is not about money. This is about educating them that if they just shake the jaw and they inhale it consistently.
All right.
Thank you
Well,
for a
guys,
lovely, lovely podcast.
yeah, this was great. We hope to have you back and learn more. And I will be spreading the information that you've shared with me today with many of my clients. And I have tons of people in California that could definitely benefit from what you just said. So I'll be sure to get that information out as well. As for our listeners, again, please add this to your store. Make sure you're telling your patients about this. Also, reach out to Joseph for a wholesale account or even to try the formula for yourself, because there's nothing like trying it as a practitioner, feeling the benefits, and then being able to explain that personally, to your patients and clients. Make sure you share this podcast with someone that can benefit, especially in California. And make sure you like and subscribe our page. Thank you, Joseph, for being here. We're very blessed to have you, and so is ProImmune.
Thank you. The website for any of your listeners, thebestimmunesupport.com. Thank you so very much, Trace. What a pleasure to meet you.
You as well. God bless, and thanks everybody for being here.
God bless. Bye-bye.
See ya.